Hi, Pershing Hill students and families. Happy Wonder Wednesday. Since we can't be together, we're going to bring a little wonder into your homes. Today, we will pick up right where we left off, in Augie's section, on the 5th grade trip to the nature reserve. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the story, Wonder by R.J. Palacio. Voices in the dark. Finally, after what seemed like a forever of running, someone yelled, "I think we lost them." "Amos? I'm right here," said Amos in a voice a few feet behind us. "We can stop," Miles yelled from further up. "Jack," I yelled. "Whoa," said Jack, "I'm right here." "I can't see a thing." "Are you sure we lost them?" Henry asked, letting go of my arm. That's when I realized that he'd been the one who was pulling me as we ran. "Yes." "Shh, let's listen." We all got super quiet, listening for footsteps in the dark. All we could hear were the crickets and frogs and our own crazy panting. We were out of breath, stomachs hurting, bodies bent over our knees. "We lost them," said Henry. "Whoa, that was intense." "What happened to the flashlight?" "I dropped it." "How did you guys know?" said Jack. "We saw them before." "They looked like jerks." "You just rammed into him," I said to Amos. "I know, right?" He laughed. "He didn't even see it coming," said Miles. He was like, "Are you a freak too?" And I was like, "Bam," said Jack. "Bam," said Amos, throwing a fake punch in the air. But after I tackled him, I was like, "Run!" And Amos, "He's 10 times bigger than you." And I got up and started running as fast as I could. We all started laughing. "I grabbed Augie and told him to run," said Henry. "I didn't even know it was you pulling me." I answered. "That was wild," said Amos, shaking his head. "Totally wild." "Your lip is bleeding, dude." "I got in a good couple of punches," answered Amos, wiping his lip. "I think they were 7th graders. They were huge." "Losers," Henry shouted really loudly, but we all shushed him. We listened for a second to make sure no one had heard him. "Where are we?" said Amos. "I can't even see the screen." "I think we're in the cornfields," answered Henry. "Duh, we're in the cornfields," said Miles, pushing a cornstalk at Henry. "Okay, I know exactly where we are. We have to go back in this direction. That'll take us to the other side of the field." "Yo, dudes," said Jack, hand high in the air. "That was really cool of you guys to come back for us. Really cool. Thank you." "No problem," answered Amos, high-fiving Jack, and then Miles and Henry high-fived him too. "Yeah, dudes, thanks," I said, holding my palm up like Jack just had, though I wasn't sure if they'd high-fived me too. Amos looked at me and nodded. "It was cool how you stood your ground, little dude," he said, high-fiving me. "Yeah, Augie," said Miles, high-fiving me too. "You were, we're littler than you guys." "I didn't know what else to say," I laughed. "Very cool," said Henry, and he high-fived me too. "Sorry I ripped your sweatshirt." I looked down, and my sweatshirt was completely torn down the middle. One sleeve was ripped off, and the other was so stretched out it was hanging down to my knees. "Hey, your elbow was bleeding," said Jack. "Yeah," I shrugged. "It was starting to hurt a lot." "You okay?" said Jack, seeing my face. I nodded. Suddenly, I felt like crying, and I was trying really hard not to do that. "Wait, your hearing aids are gone," said Jack. "What?" I yelled, touching my ears. The hearing aid band was definitely gone. That's why I felt like I was underwater. "Oh no," I said, and that's when I couldn't hold it in anymore. Everything that just had happened kind of hit me, and I couldn't help it. I started to cry. I cried like a big cry, what Mom would call the waterworks. I was so embarrassed I hid my face in my arm, but I couldn't stop the tears from coming. The guys were really nice to me, though. They patted me on the back. "You're okay, dude. It's okay," they said. "You're one brave little dude. Do you know that?" said Amos, putting his arm around my shoulders. And when I kept on crying, he put both his arms around me, like my dad would have done, and let me cry. The Emperor's Guard. We backtracked through the grass for a good 10 minutes to see if we could find my hearing aids, but it was way too dark to see anything. We literally had to hold on to each other's shirts, and walk in a single file so we wouldn't trip over one another. It was like black ink had been poured all around. "This is hopeless," said Henry. "They could be anywhere." "Maybe we can come back with a flashlight," answered Amos. "No, it's okay," I said. "Let's just go back." "Thanks, though." We walked back towards the cornfields and then cut through them until the back of the giant screen came into view. Since it was facing away from us, we didn't get any light from the screen at all until we walked around to the edge of the woods again. That's where we finally started seeing a little light. There was no sign of the 7th graders anywhere. "Where do you think they went?" said Jack. "Back to the food truck," said Amos. "They're probably thinking we're going to report them." "Are we?" asked Henry. They looked at me, and I shook my head. "Okay," said Amos, "but, little dude, don't walk around here alone again, okay? If you need to go somewhere, tell us, and we'll go with you." "Okay," I nodded. As we got closer to the screen, I could hear high on a hill was a lonely goatherd, and could smell the cotton candy from one of the concession stands near the food trucks. There were lots of kids milling around in the area, so I pulled what was left of over my hoodie over my head and kept my face down, hands in pockets as we made our way through the crowd. It had been a long time since I had been without my hearing aids, and it felt like I was miles under the earth. It felt like that song Miranda used to sing to me. "Ground control to Major Tom. Your circuit's dead. There's something wrong." I did notice as I was walking that Amos had stayed right next to me, and Jack was close on the other side of me, and Miles was in front of us, and Henry was in back of us. They were surrounding me as we walked through the crowds of kids, like I had my own emperor's guard. Sleep. I stopped there. I'd been reading for over an hour, and sleep still didn't come. It was almost 2 a.m. Everyone else was asleep. I had my flashlight on under the sleeping bag, and maybe the light was why I couldn't sleep, but I was too afraid to turn it off. I was afraid of how dark it was outside the sleeping bag. When we got back to our section in front of the movie screen, no one had even noticed we'd been gone. Mr. Tushman and Miss Rubin and Summer and all the rest of the kids were just watching the movie. They had no clue how something bad had almost happened to me and Jack. It's so weird how that can be. How you could have a night that's the worst in your life, but to everybody else, it's just an ordinary night. Like on my calendar at home, I would mark this as being one of the most horrific days of my life. This and the day Daisy died. But for the rest of the world, this is just an ordinary day. Or maybe it was even a good day. Maybe somebody won the lottery today. Amos, Miles, and Henry brought me and Jack over to where we'd been sitting before with Summer and Maya and Reed. And then they went and sat where they had been sitting before, with Zima and Savannah and their group. In a way, everything was exactly as we had left it before we went looking for the toilets. The sky was the same, the movie was the same, everyone's faces were the same. Mine was the same. But something was different. Something had changed. I could see Amos and Miles and Henry telling their group what had just happened. I knew they were talking about it because they kept looking over at me while they were talking. Even when the movie was playing, people were whispering about it in the dark. News like that spreads really fast. It was what everyone was talking about on the bus ride back to the cabins. All the girls, even girls I don't know very well, were asking me if I was okay. The boys were all talking about getting revenge on the group of 7th graders, trying to figure out what school they were from. I wasn't planning on telling the teachers about any of what had happened, but they found out anyway. Maybe it was the torn sweatshirt or the bloody elbow, or maybe it's just that teachers know everything. When we got back to the camp, Mr. Tushman took me to the first aid office, and while I was getting my elbow cleaned and bandaged up by the camp nurse, Mr. Tushman and the camp director were in the next room talking with Amos and Jack and Henry and Miles, trying to get a description of the troublemakers. When he asked me about them a little later, I said I couldn't remember their faces at all, which isn't true. It's their faces I keep seeing every time I close my eyes to sleep. The look of total horror on the girl's face when she first saw me. The way the kid with the flashlight, Eddie, looked at me as he talked to me like he hated me. Like a lamb to the slaughter. I remember Dad saying that ages ago, but tonight I think I finally understand what it means. Aftermath. Mom was waiting for me in front of the school along with all the other parents when the bus arrived. Mr. Tushman told me on the bus ride home that they had called my parents to tell them there had been a situation the night before, but that everyone was fine. He said the camp director and several of the counselors went looking for the hearing aid in the morning while we all went swimming in the lake, but they couldn't find it anywhere. Broarwood would reimburse us the cost of the hearing aids, he said. They felt bad about what happened. I wondered if Eddie had taken my hearing aids with him as a kind of souvenir, something to remember. Mom gave me a tight hug when I got off the bus, but she didn't slam me with questions like I thought she might. Her hug felt good, and I didn't shake it off like some of the other kids were doing with their parents. The bus driver started unloading our duffel bags, and I went to find mine while Mom talked to Mr. Tushman and Miss Rubin, who had walked over to her. As I rolled my bag toward her, a lot of the kids who don't usually say anything to me were nodding hello or patting my back as I walked by them. Ready? Mom said when she saw me. She took my duffel bag and I didn't even try to hold on to it. I was fine with her carrying it. If she wanted to carry me on her shoulders, I would have been fine with that too. Home. Mom and I didn't talk much the whole walk home, and when we got to the front stoop, I automatically looked in the front bay window because I forgot for a second that Daisy wasn't going to be there like always, perched on the sofa with her front paws on the windowsill waiting for us to come home. It made me kind of sad when we walked inside. As soon as we did, Mom dropped my duffel bag and wrapped her arms around me and kissed me on the head and on my face like she was breathing me in. It's okay, Mom. I'm fine, I said, smiling. She nodded and took my face in her hands. Her eyes were shiny. I know you are, she said. I miss you so much, Augie. I missed you too, Mom. I could tell she wanted to say a lot of things, but she was stopping herself. Are you hungry? She asked. I'm starving. Can I have a grilled cheese? Of course, she answered, and immediately started to make the sandwich while I took my jacket off and sat down at the kitchen counter. Where's Via? I asked. She's coming home with Dad today. Boy, did she miss you, Augie. Yeah, she would have liked the nature reserve. You know what movie they played? The Sound of Music. You'll have to tell her that. So, what do you want to hear about the bad part or the good part first? I asked after a few minutes, leaning my head on my hand. Whatever you want to talk about, she answered. Well, except for last night, I had an awesome time, I said. I mean, it was just awesome. That's why I'm so bummed. I feel like they've ruined the whole trip for me. No, sweetie, don't let them do that to you. You were there for more than 48 hours, and that awful part lasted 1 hour. Don't let them take that away from you, okay? I know, I nodded. Did Mr. Tushman tell you about the hearing aids? Yes, he called us this morning. Was Dad mad because they're so expensive? Oh my gosh, of course not, Augie. He just wanted to know that you were all right. That's all that matters to us. And that you don't let those mean boys ruin your trip. They were pretty big, Mom, I smiled. 7th graders, I think. She shook her head. 7th graders? Mr. Tushman didn't tell us that. Oh my goodness. Did he tell you how Jack stood up for me? I said. And Amos was like, bam! He rammed right into the leader. They both crashed into the ground like a real fight. It was pretty awesome. Amos's lip was bleeding and everything. He told us there was a fight, but, she said, looking at me with her eyebrows raised, I'm just so grateful that you and Amos and Jack are fine. When I think about what could have happened, she trailed off, flipping the grilled cheese again. My Montauk hoodie got totally shredded. Well, that can be replaced, she answered. She lifted the grilled cheese onto a plate and put the plate in front of me on the counter. Milk or white grape juice? Chocolate milk, please? I started devouring the sandwich. Oh, can you do it that special way you make it with the froth? How did you and Jack end up at the edge of the woods in the first place? She said, pouring the milk into a tall glass. Jack had to go to the bathroom, I answered, my mouth full. As I was talking, the spoon in the chocolate powder and started rolling a small whisk between her palms really fast. But there was a huge line, and he didn't want to wait, so he went into the woods. She looked up at me while she was whisking. I know she was thinking we shouldn't have done that. The chocolate milk in the glass now had a 2-inch froth on top. That looks good, Mom. Thank you. And then what happened? She said, putting the glass in front of me. I took a long drink of chocolate milk. Is it okay if we don't talk about it right now? Oh, okay. I promise I'll tell you about it later when Dad and Via come home. I will tell you every detail. I just don't want to have to tell the whole story over and over, you know? I understand, Mom said. I finished my sandwich in 2 more bites and gulped down the chocolate milk. Wow, you practically inhaled that sandwich. Do you want another one? She said. I shook my head and wiped my mouth with the back of my hand. Mom, am I always going to have to worry about jerks like that? I asked. Like when I grow up, is it always going to be like this? She didn't answer right away, but took my plate and glass and put them in the sink and rinsed them with water. There are always going to be jerks in the world, Augie, she said, looking at me. But I really believe, and Daddy really believes, that there are more good people on this earth than bad people. And the good people watch out for each other and take care of each other, just like Jack was there for you, and Amos, and those other kids. Oh yeah, Miles and Henry. They were awesome too. It's weird because Miles and Henry haven't even really been nice to me at all during the year. Sometimes people surprise us, she said, rubbing the top of my head. I guess. Want another glass of chocolate milk? No, I'm good, I said. Thanks, Mom. Actually, I'm kind of tired. I didn't sleep too good last night. You should take a nap. Thanks for leaving me Babu, by the way. Did you get my note? She smiled. I slept with him both nights. She was about to say something else when her cell phone rang, and she answered. She started beaming as she listened. Oh my goodness. Really? What kind? She said excitedly. Yep, he's right here. He was about to take a nap. Want to say hi? Oh, okay. See you in 2 minutes. She clicked it off. That was Daddy, she said excitedly. He and Via are just down the block. He's not at work, I said. He left early because he couldn't wait to see you, she said. So don't take a nap quite yet. 5 seconds later, Dad and Via came through the door. I ran into Dad's arms and he picked me up and spun me around and kissed me. He didn't let me go for a full minute until I said, Dad, it's okay. And then it was Via's turn and she kissed me all over like she used to do when I was little. It wasn't until she stopped that I noticed the big white cardboard box they had brought in with them. What is that? I said. Open it, said Dad, smiling. And he and Mom looked at each other like they knew a secret. Come on, Augie, said Via. I opened the box. Inside was the cutest little puppy I have ever seen in my whole life. It was black and furry with a pointy little snout and bright black eyes and small ears that flopped down. Bear. We called the puppy Bear because when Mom first saw him, she said he looked just like a little bear cub. I said, that's what we should call him. And everyone agreed, and that was the perfect name. I took the next day off from school, not because my elbow was hurting me, which it was, but so I could play with Bear all day long. Mom let Via stay home from school too, so the 2 of us took turns cuddling with Bear and playing tug of war with him. We had kept all of Daisy's old toys, and we brought them out now to see which ones he'd like best. It was fun hanging out with Via all day, just the 2 of us. It was like old times, like before I started going to school. Back then, I couldn't wait for her to come home from school so she could play with me before she started her homework. Now that we're older, though, and I'm going to school and have friends of my own that I hang out with, we never do it anymore. So it was nice hanging out with her, laughing and playing. I think she liked it too. What does Augie's mom say when he asks if he will always have to worry about jerks, even when he grows up? Do you agree or disagree with what she says? Do you believe that the good people outnumber the bad? I'd love to hear from you. Students, I am so proud of you, and we've done so much this year. Keep up all the great work, and I'll talk to you real soon.